Hi, Dr. Ron here from the Mental Health Gym, and let's talk a little bit about perfection today. A few days ago, I met a friend for lunch, and we walked to the restaurant, past some beautiful flowers in bloom, trees were in bloom. We're in the middle of spring, so that's not unusual. Last night I watched the news and the weather person said, make sure you bring your plants in because things are going to freeze tonight. That was kind of disappointing, but I do have to say it would have been more disappointing a few years ago when we lived in a home and had our own garden and so on. Don't know if it reached freezing, but it's fairly cool today. And if I'd have done this video yesterday, I'd have been in a t-shirt. Uh, Today I'm in a flannel shirt. So, I got kind of wondering, why doesn't the world work that way? If it's spring, why doesn't it just go smoothly in an upward direction? Why do we get days where we may get rain on end for a couple of days or 3 days? Why do we get these undulations in temperature? you know, that's not perfect. So, I was kind of wondering whether you believe in God, whether you believe in Mother Nature or science or any of the helpers. Why don't people arrange it, or why doesn't some superpower arrange it so that things go perfectly? Why is it that if I take my car in for service, for the annual checkup, for example, why can't I be guaranteed that I won't have to take it back for service before next year? Uh, how come things stop working a week or two or a month or two after their warranty runs out? Did you ever go into a restaurant, and pay good money for a lousy meal? Um, there are a lot of things that happen in this world that are not perfect. And that's what makes it kind of interesting. And not only is it interesting, but most of us accept it with respect to other things, other people, and so on. You don't throw the car away because you got a flat tire. Um, there are repairmen and women to uh, fix things that are broken. Uh, it would be nicer if the air conditioning didn't break down on the hottest day of the year, but if it does, we adapt to it. What we don't adapt to very often is imperfection in ourselves. We learn from an early age, most of us anyway, that human beings are imperfect beings, that we make mistakes, and we don't always succeed. We don't. We often will disappoint ourselves. We may be criticized by others. We may not achieve what our goals are. But that shouldn't detract from having them. That shouldn't detract from moving forward, accepting our imperfections. When things fall short, we do the same thing as we do when we get a flat tire. In other words, we kind of reassess the situation, and if it's a minor inconvenience, you get it fixed. If you get a defective engine, then you may want to consider getting a new car, but not always. If you have fluctuations in weather, you may want to move, but it's kind of drastic to go to a place that has more even weather. I know some of you in Southern California may be uh, fortunate enough to not experience some of the changes that we get in the East, but um, you know, realistically, you assess the situation and then you make the necessary changes, or if you assess it realistically, then you may want to change the goal altogether, but not automatically and not in a way that criticizes you for being human. There are many things that have not been accomplished in the world because of the fact that people stopped short of pursuing their goals and pursuing their strategies for getting there. I believe it was Thomas Edison who said that, so many things didn't get invented or achieved because people stopped just short of getting to that point where they would have been successful. Success isn't guaranteed. It's not even guaranteed with hard work, but you increase the odds substantially if you enter with the mindset that I'm not perfect, and that's not all that bad. It can be interesting. There's nothing wrong with striving for perfection as long as I understand and you understand that there doesn't have to be a must quality to it. It's not that we must accomplish a particular thing or we have to feel lousy about ourselves. Meeting challenges is great. Meeting challenges in a way that achieves them may feel even greater. But dealing with challenges in a way that you learn about yourself, even though you're not achieving, is pretty darn good too. So let's accept the fact that since we're imperfect beings, living in an imperfect world where nothing is really perfect, that a certain amount of our behavior will lead to imperfect results. And that doesn't make us any less human, any less important, any less lovable to ourselves if that happens. Give it some thought. And by the way, the Mental Health Gym website is undergoing construction. You can get on it and see some of the changes. I hope that if you haven't joined the Mental Health Gym, you will. It's free and it's going to be even more productive and more helpful in the next week or two as our changes get implemented. In the meantime, fellow imperfect beings, have a good day. We'll be looking for you next time. It's Dr. Ron Kaiser wishing you well.